Hello and welcome back to Beyond the Veil background information. We're doing a character profile and it's going to be about Tonauac. Now, I did a brief look at how I'm pronouncing the name, and as far as I can tell, I'm pronouncing it correct, which is good. But if you don't think I am, please let me know because I do like to try and get my pronunciations correct. I mean, I have certain problems with when I speak and I'm nervous, I change words or switch words, or I don't necessarily remember. Like, my brain will tell me how that's said, but my mouth won't necessarily catch up. So, it's often one of the reasons why when you hear my voice on here, I don't always sound like my pitch will change and things like that. But anyway, as always, we'll start with a quote from one of my stories with the character in, and then I'll tell you just a brief bit about the inspiration, perhaps, before I then talk about their character profile. Now, because he is a partner to the Viper clan, I haven't actually written a full profile for him, unlike the lead characters that are in the Viper clan. So this is basically his first profile that's been done. He was majestic, beautiful, and wise. None could question that he was their leader, and as fearsome as any of the elder. Yet, as Archie looked at him now, he could sense the burden of his position seeping through the stern features as the crimson eyes seemed to almost beg for another option. But Tonauac was forthright and firm. What he did was for the good of the tribe, and there could be no greater cause to do anything. Quote from The Feathered Snakes. Tonauac was initially going to be a bit of a villain that would be coming for Adelia within my initial stories. With Thea having been removed, the idea was that someone was going to come for her linked to her past and certainly going to have to face a lot before Elaine was going to work him down. However, as I was working on Viper in the Shadows, I realised that someone so vicious would never be accepted by Elaine, and that there was going to be problems with the entire idea of it being a romance this way. So I focused on Celine and Quetzalcoatl. He had originally been neglected from that storyline to then being a servant, and well, there was going to be more trouble until I thought about how cute the pair were, and then how Tonauac could not be anything more than a gentle and wise being. He has his dark moments, but because he's still trapped by his traditions, but he does want to change and he is not forceful. So when I wrote him and Elaine falling for one another, and it was a very nerve-wracking moment, I ended up letting it be as natural as possible, and I was surprised it actually sort of worked. So, name, Tonauac. Position, Elder. Story featured in Ancient Venom is his introduction. Bat and the Snake, he's a secondary partner. So, he's a semi-protagonist. Time to Wed, it's the secondary story, so he's one of the protagonists in that. Feathered Snakes, he's a semi-antagonist, and various others where he's more of a background figure or just doesn't have as big a role, see above, but he's also a love interest mainly. Gender, male. Description, around 6 foot, if not taller than that. Tan skin like burnt orange. Beautiful, long, coiling hair reaching down to the floor that turns the colours of the sunlight and sky to match the time of the day. Penetrating crimson eyes and an effeminate and beautiful expression to his face, though he is muscular but not overly so. He's almost androgynous to an extent. The the musculature sort of tells you it's male, but there's so much to his face that's just very feminine. He's an interesting sort of figure like that. Realm, the Veil. Abilities, as Elder Chief, he is resilient to sunlight, but performs a sacrifice to enable his other tribal members to be able to cope in the sunlight too. He can merge with trees to survive and move. He can take energy from life around and give it back if needed, and he can also turn into a terrifying demonic creature with hellfire in its mouth. But Tonauac also has a secondary ability as the chief that means he takes the role of an oracle. He only needs a drop of blood into his hand to be able to read a being's future, which has led them to curious moments. Master himself, personality, gentle, understanding, caring, and thoughtful. Tonauac is incredibly intelligent, and very careful in his actions as well as diligent. He made sure that he accepted and looked after the traditions and enforced them where appropriate, but was aware that regarding the humans and the developments in the Vale, he does need someone else to help him. He is romantic in nature, but wants to do what he can to have a happy marriage and happy children. Relations. He is the son of the previous chief and the semi-adoptive father to Quetzalcoatl, but is the husband to Elaine. Really, with relations, it'd be giving too much away if I talked any more about that. History. Born in a time before the Europeans had come across and the vampires truly roamed the lands of the Americas, Tonauac grew up learning about his position in the tribe and absorbing in every law and ruling around him. He had to learn to use his abilities to heal and to kill in turn, and that when the humans brought their sacrifices to them, he should give them some form of thanks in some kind of sign. And so Tonauac encouraged passion flowers to open out and grow in thanks. It was greatly encouraged that he was a young prodigy, with his abilities to read the fortune of others, but it brought with it a kind of loneliness because he often felt like he was not permitted to mix with the other elder as much. However, he was often joined from time to time by a young male called Yeloti, who had an ability with fire in particular and was quick to show it off to Tonauac and shine a light for him so they could study late. Yeloti was always eager to make a joke, tell a story, and together they would often pass away their study time with smiles and talk. They became best friends quickly, and this would aid them all, as it was not long into maturing that Tonauac's parents both perished as the obsidian in the ground around them was learnt to be their weakness and used by invading vampires to fight them for territory that the elders were not willing to give. Tonauac was confused by the situation. They were supposed to greet the vampires as their kin and make friendships with them as the other elder that they were able to communicate with encouraged them to do. But these vampires did not want to conform to the old ways and old nobilities. They did nothing but destroy, and within their actions the women of the tribe were often kidnapped or killed. One female was taken and managed to escape, but not without being shamed and carrying a child within her womb. Tonauac did not shun her, and instead beckoned the tribe to stand together and protect themselves. But when the vampires then turned on the humans that had been their friends and worshippers for centuries, many of the tribe could not abandon them. Two females, the last who'd produced children, were the last to fall in an attempt to rescue the village, and it was in that moment Tonauac had to make the hardest decision for the tribe, the time to sleep. He read his own blood to learn it would be necessary, and that the moon would come to rouse them from their sleep and into the future. He was able to get all the members of the tribe left to enter the hibernation, as their world seemed to be destroyed, knowing that they would be safer there. But with two babies needing care, Tonauac and Yeloti stayed behind and carefully raised the babies till they were old enough to learn to hibernate, and Tonauac took care of the seeming half vampire Quetzalcoatl. He taught the figure that his position was at the bottom, but important to look after them all, so he could not give his heart to any but the tribe. But upon reading Quetzalcoatl's blood, he saw the moon appearing again. All the same, Tonauac stepped into hibernation, and when Quetzalcoatl was awoken by a stolen dagger, he slowly began to awaken himself, until he heard Quetzalcoatl fighting and awoke the tribe in time to meet Selene Viper, read her blood, and saw that she was the one about to lead them to a great future. Final comments. I like this Tonauac better than my original idea, but he's not very good when it comes to the need to change his thoughts on tradition at first, and why I think Elaine is so important to him. Although Elaine also has her issues that Tonauac tends to balance out, so they actually work quite well as a couple. Yeah, thank you.